this all boils down to, let's see, I'll call this one, ultimately, when you look at all this stuff, whether it's, the divisive language, or whether Trump, helped this bomber come out of the woodwork and decide what he was going to do, or whether or not, inclusive or exclusive language is an affront to other people, regardless of whether or not those things are true, what is also true is that it starts with you as an individual, that you start by yourself. You start, how am I going to address this language? How am I going to say things in a way that's more conducive to the argument I want to make but no other, and not create more problems than I am seeking to solve, or replace the problem I have fixed in theory with a new one. And that has to be part of the psychological equation that we all participate in. And again, as a Democrat, as somebody on the left who believes in the inclusion of people and the belief that people should, be allowed to have, their full and free voice, and that everyone should be able to live freely side by side in liberty, expressing themselves, as fully as they can without interfering with somebody else. All those are so important that it has to start with you. First of all, how you behave out in the world. If if the language you're using is harsh, you need to pepper it with humor so people know that you're still operating within the realm of somebody being a living, breathing human being. If you're an activist, you need to vote. You need to also be aware of baseline talking points and ideas, so that when someone confronts you at a march and they start to push back on your ideas, you have more than enough information and an articulate point to push back on those things. It's for me personally, again, it always goes back to like jokes and how to joke. But you can make any joke as long as you're not re-victimizing or harming someone in the process, but also people need to be in on it to some degree as well. Like that's the one thing about a comedy club, is that one of the reasons why it is a safe space for saying nearly anything, and it should be, is because everyone comes in under the context that we are joking. And the rest of the world, that doesn't exist out online or whatever. So what you think, because you joke to somebody to your right, but you tweet it almost at word for word verbatim onto Twitter, and it doesn't come across as funny written that way as it did in the others, it plays into this narrative that everybody is participating in the cruelty. We have a responsibility not to. So I would ask everybody to tone down or eliminate all violent rhetoric in anything that you say. The solution starts with you. We'll worry about what other people aren't doing after. Operate in public and as a human being like you were trying to convince yourself that your way is right. And if you would be annoyed by how you're behaving, it's not going to work. And secondly, be a participant. A material participant, not just a social participant. Phone bank, volunteer, knock on doors, glad hand, meet some people who don't agree with you politically, and show them your face as someone who doesn't agree with them politically, who respects their willingness and their right to vote and all that. At some point, plan on running for office if you care that much, and at the very least, just vote, for Pete's sake. And if you're going to vote and you're going to vote, offer to take a friend with you to their polling place. Give them a lift there. If they're already going, talk them into bringing somebody else. Tell them you'll find somebody who will hitch a ride with them who might need a lift. All the barriers that are up there. You could say the Republicans shouldn't be denying people the right to vote, and you're correct. But we can't stop them from doing that until we vote in overwhelming numbers. It's the only way. So it's my momentary solutions diatribe, but it starts with you. It always starts with you. That 1% every day. What can I do every day that makes me 1% better as a person, then, extrapolate that out. Yeah, Carl said, think globally, act locally. Absolutely. Moment to moment, because you're not going to, and even like Kerry saying, we need governors to root out, use their resources to root out right-wing terrorism because Trump won't, since it's his base. Exactly. And so you have to vote for those governors, and you can't back down from a Democratic governor because they're not 100% on board with everything that you want, and seed that ground to seed that person who, in that seat, who may be with you 9 times out of 10 for someone who is never going to be with you in any way and is an affront to everything you believe. You do not give that ground. It's silly. It's an absurdity, and it's wrong. So, yeah, right, Julie, vote blue. But educate yourself as a voter. Make sure that you can articulate why you're voting blue too, and know that this is a long-term strategy, that you've got to, an egalitarian free society with proper rules and the ability to, know that the water you're drinking is clean and the air you're breathing is clean, and that the vehicles on the road opposite you that are traveling in the other direction aren't going to burst into flames because there's no regulation on valves and cylinders and pipes within them, because some state decides that right-wing or libertarian ideology means that we don't need rules like that. That takes constant gardening. It takes a constant focus on that or whatever. And it doesn't have to eat up your entire day. It's very small. Voting is something you do every 2 years. Maybe there's an occasional special election or whatever. It requires the cost-benefit analysis. The return on investment on voting is so frigging high, considering the effort you have to put in. And by the way, fretting about this election is not an effort. Being upset, being angry at Trump, that's not effort. That's just life. You don't get credit for that. That's just how it is. People during the 60s, when they were sicking dogs on people, that was the price of liberty at that point. This is the price you're paying. It's way less. So, for JB, who had the toilet situation, yeah. Or Zelda, vote. I'm Gumby, damn it. Right. I'll vote blue till I'm blue. There you go. The number of young black Republicans Trump spoke in front of yesterday was disturbing. No, it's just all of them. But again, I don't blame them for, thinking they have to play along with this dude and his system to get inside, because, that's a line they've been sold. It's not indicative of their entire experience, though. So don't worry about that. And again, start with yourself. Make sure you're yeah. Nice, Mark. That's great. Vote for Pedro. Let's see. Got to be in power and win before you can fight to get all the other stuff you want. Exactly. And seeding that ground, or going, I'm going to hold my nose and not, until the perfect person comes along, or I'm not inspired. Like, really? I don't know how you wake up not disgusted with yourself every moment of every day. Vote for Murphy. So if you're at a voting machine, double check your entries to odd alterations too before you walk away. That's right. And don't be afraid to ask for a second ballot. You can tear yours up, then give you a second one. If you mess up on it, you can get a second ballot. Understand that. Just go back over and go, this got messed up or something. Can we tear this up and I want another one? You can do that. That got me so mad, that kid saying that on MSC. Yeah, about the being inspired. It's disgusting. Like, how about be inspired by kids not being put in cages? All the things you took for granted. And again, this is a big part about, this is the same problem on the left that insofar as what makes libertarians out of right-wingers, is this idea that you just take for granted everything about this country. It comes from different points. Most, right-leaning people take for granted what's there because they assume by birthright it should be theirs, and it didn't take any work, and the work that was done is just kind of written in stone, and it won't require any protection. Like Russia won't undermine our democracy. It'll just, they want to be us, this assumption or whatever. And then on the left, the assumption is that, the United States never did anything good, never was great, was always a genocidal, murderous machine, never served any purpose. All it did was wipe out innocent people, and therefore, why do I need to join in on it or whatever? These are the two, and they're the same people, and the result usually ends up the same. They don't vote. They leave it to other people, so they just sidecar whoever's there. And most of the time, what that entails is sidecarring the Republican, because Democrats aren't going to knock people off the voter rolls, but Republicans are. So if you're not voting, the silence is acceptance part goes towards the Republicans in this case. If a politicians you see aren't good enough, then get yourself on the ballot paper and do better. Exactly. In Illinois, you can use your electronic vote and a paper printout behind a clear plastic case before you cast your ballot. Yeah. If anyone tries to change your vote or talk to you about it before you vote, that's illegal. Tell someone. Yeah, this is true. No protest votes allowed. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does. And if you don't care about your own life, vote like someone else's life depends on it, because it does. Yeah. Vote like it matters that when you have immigrant detention facilities, you would not have the people in charge of it hire sexual predators. Maybe it matters enough to you to do that. Maybe that's inspiring. Maybe you'll be inspired that people on a sex offender registry shouldn't be hired to work at a detention facility for children. And that the people in charge will care enough to make sure that that is the case. Yeah, hopefully that inspires you. The best tip if you get to vote on election day at the voting location to be prepared and decided before you go into the box to cast the ballot. Yeah. My life depends on Dems winning as a lesbian because I'm a lesbian. Why not vote by mail? Then you can take as much time as you want. That works too. You can also take your mail-in ballot and drop it off at the registrar's office. That's effectively what I did. So I already voted. And yes, and that's a great point, Sixes. Thank you. Vote for people who can't vote. Because here's the thing. All these people are like, I don't know if I'll vote or whatever. You know who never got a chance to vote? Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin was another black man denied voting because he died before he was old enough to vote. He never got a chance to vote. He'd rather be alive and have your vote, the ability to vote, than not. But if you're like, well, I don't know, everyone who, has died for these rights, and the Carl Lewises of the world who were beat up because they insisted on the right to vote, like, those people should inspire you. This isn't all here just so you can take it for granted. And I'm sorry your parents did such a crappy job